founders need to live in a reality distortion field. You hear about it as a sort of a criticism, but it's also a requirement in a sense. You can't accept your true reality. You got to live in the matrix, of the version of you, not the reality. It's like, oh shit, look at my bank account.
It's very well said.
No, I think, yeah, it's, I think I listen to a ton of like self-help books and read a bunch when I was younger, and like the power of positive thinking is real to me. Like if you're just living in where you're going to be, you have a better day.
So let's go and manifest, man. Sounds sign me up. I'm on board. Rai, thank you so much for joining us to the Open Source Founder Podcast, Season 3, live streamed.
Postgres is so beloved, by developers. It's actually been so commercialized. Amazon's RDS revenue is just pretty out of this world. There's no company though, like MongoDB or Oracle, that's just around Postgres. Like if Databricks gets to be a publicly traded company around Spark, or Confluent gets to be a publicly traded around Kafka, then there ought to be a publicly traded company around Postgres. There might be more than one, but there needs to be at least one. And so that's my target.
Love it. The throne is up for the taking.
Postgres is mostly used as a transactional database, sitting behind an application, call it CRUD. When you create an object in a web form, you got to save that information somewhere, database, right? Postgres. But, there's a lot of stuff going on now in analytics and AI, LLM, and generative AI that also requires database processing. And actually, Postgres can do a lot of those use cases as well, but it's not very well known for that, and I would say it's not very polished for that. It doesn't. And the most important thing, it doesn't have like enterprise sales representation for that. So, basically, I believe if you want to figure out, like, let's say you're looking at generative AI systems, the company that has the most revenue is the company that has the most sales reps. Postgres has no sales reps. It's not going to have any of those customers. So, I just believe that in open source, widespread adoption amongst the enterprise, bigger companies, let's call it even like larger private companies, all the way up to public companies. Like there's so many great salespeople in the world, and in so many great technology companies, like great products, great salespeople. They will win customers. If it's competitive to Postgres, Postgres loses because of that. Again, not in every case, but take, for example, Snowflake. Like Snowflake is just got a world-class sales team, world-class marketing, world-class product. And so if you're going to do analytics, everyone kind of assumes, okay, use Snowflake. It's the safe choice, but you could use Postgres too. Why would I ever use Snowflake? Let's just use Postgres.
Just use Postgres.
Yeah. There you go. So it's like a meme that's like,
it is.
Everyone talks, it's a cool meme, but it's not very real yet. And we're just trying to help make it real.
I've heard my co-founder actually say to me like a bunch of times, and he was very real about it. He's right here. Zaf, you want to say hi on camera? Hey. He's helping us with the whole production here. But I will try to come full circle to how you go about like maybe building a sales team today or tomorrow at Tembo, and of course marketing to developers that has its own nuances. I want to prelude that with something that maybe a lot of people might not know, whoever is tuning in, that before Tembo, you were the CEO of a $1 billion company called Astronomer. And so with the time that we have here, we could be talking for hours. I would love to hear from you what lessons you got from that experience, mistakes to avoid, and then specifically for marketing and selling to developers, which is what you were doing, and hiring teams and growing an organization. Like what could you share with us from all that journey? And then how you end up applying these lessons to Tembo today, coming full circle.
Yeah, I would say that, when we started the company, we started to scale up in 2019, and I hired a professional CEO, and he hired a bunch of professional managers across the business. The founding team, like the early people, kind of got pushed to the side a little bit in favor of that founding team. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have pushed to keep the vision in the hands of the founders, a little bit more. We basically went, there's the whole founder mode thing.
The founder mode, yeah.
Yeah, so we went manager mode. It seems like the right thing to do when you're doing it, but the reality was that they built a product that was wrong. Basically, like version 5 of Astronomer is like basically what version 2 was going to be, should have been, if the founders would have stayed in play, so there was like this like loop away from the simple next step from our initial product that the professionals built, and then kind of the later on the founders came back. That original vision, I'm excited to know now that like the work that the astronomer team's doing is exactly what I would have done 4 years ago. But again, I just shut up. You kind of assume the professionals could be better than you at this stage of the company. But I guess it can go either way. But to me, the key thing is like the vision should be continuous, and you really shouldn't hand over the keys of the company too much when the professionals start to come in. But it's very tempting to do that.
Thank you for the honest information here on this, and I'll try to come back to it. Could you walk us a little through early days, what the go-to-market motion looked like and marketing, and then later on, once you had the enterprise customers and with all that?
At Astronomer, we made three pivots in 4 years. Like we were, at first we were, actually probably even more than that if I was going to try to really count them. But originally we were an analytics company. We ended up adopting Airflow inside of our product. We ended up exposing Airflow inside of our product, and then we ended up shifting our product to be entirely Airflow. Without getting into too much detail, there was a lot there. We built a whole ETL framework in JavaScript in like 2016, 2017, which we completely threw away, because it was like, we thought like developers are going to be doing everything, but we learned like, no, Python is the language of data engineering. And so, Airflow was Python. So yeah, we were like, we knew we wanted to build something for data engineers. We wanted to build a better user experience for data engineers, but turned out like Maxime over at Airbnb was doing it with Airflow. And once we discovered his tool, and he was already on to Superset, he's working on Apache Superset at that point. I just said, hey, we want to build a company around this. Can we get you on board? I can go very deep into the details here, but like the big fear was what if he starts an Airflow company? That's what the investors would have been afraid of. So I ended up giving him equity in the company and made him an advisor, treated him really well. But an important part of that agreement was, and you're not going to start an Airflow company, for 2 years or some number of years, we kind of made an agreement. And so that was a really important part of the company. If it wouldn't, like, there's so many things that if we failed at that mission, the whole thing probably wouldn't have happened. Once I got that agreement with Max, I went and found the top 2 Airflow contributors and got them to sign on. We were raising a Series A, and I basically said like, or maybe it was a seed round, but anyway, but we were raising a round of capital, and I basically said like, hey, how much would I need to pay you for you to agree to join us once this round happens? And I got their numbers, and then they were in my deck. Like, okay, we got Max as an advisor. We have number 1 and 2 of Airflow contributors, or maybe it wasn't 1 and 2, it was 2 of the top 4 or 5 joining the team, and everyone's like, that's bullshit. Like, Cincinnati company is doing that? No, and they checked the facts, and we had it figured out. And so yeah, we had to pull all that together, but it was an exciting time. And then that was all like pre-traction in a lot of ways. We had some traction, but it wasn't like we had any much of an enterprise team or anything like that. It was still very much like faith, that we thought we could build a nice company around Astronomer or around Airflow.
And you feel like not just someone like you, but any entrepreneur should be able to go and raise a round just with a commitment of some top talent and with a good plan and some minimal traction on product. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, let's talk about that. So, yeah, a lot of people can't raise any money at all because they suck. They have no CV, they have no resume, and they're not exciting. If you're Maxime, Maxime went, and raised $10 million and then $50 million on Superset pre-product. Like, hey, I made Superset. Here's how many stars we have. Here's whatever. And he raised a Series A and Series B, like Andreessen, Sequoia, boom, boom, 6 months apart. That's the opposite end of the spectrum, right? From a nobody to a somebody, And he was also, he made Airflow too. So he had like a really amazing resume. Now, I just think like if there's no reason to believe you'd be a good founder for a product, then maybe you shouldn't do it, or you should go find someone who can be your co-founder who has that resume, and you just, like I said, just go find out how much money they need to make, make them an offer that's contingent upon raising the round, and like, maybe you have a chance of raising it then. But you shouldn't. I don't believe you should just like bootstrap a tech startup. Now, again, like I also am a big fan of like DHH and Ruby on Rails, and he's like on the exact opposite. I just basically, you have to pick either path A, which is bootstrap. I don't give a shit about VCs. Fuck VCs, right? Am I allowed to say? Am I allowed to say?
You can totally.
Okay.
So just don't do it on camera.
Okay, yeah. So that's DHH, Ruby on Rails. That's that's has his attitude towards it, and I think that's a fine path. Then there's like, okay, I'm committed to VC path, and that's where I've done a couple of companies, but you can
just to double click. If you don't raise VC, like you're not a tech startup, or you're just building something else entirely. Or
no, I mean, I think Basecamp is a tech startup.
Okay, good example.
In a sense, you could call it a small business, though. I really think it's more of a small business. It's gotta have revenue. It can't have burn. Like burn is a term. It's not a bootstrap term. I don't think you should bootstrap. This is definitely a fact. Like if you're a moderately wealthy person, you shouldn't go start a product and burn your own pile of cash on it. Like
use other people's money.
Yeah, use other people's money. Like, why are you going to burn your family's cash, $50K a month or $100K a month for any number of months when you could be burning somebody else's money?
That's super fair. That's super fair. But that being said, it sounds like that I should not need to go and go up the steps on the ladder of proof about like my idea and my product and my team and so on, that I should just do it as early as possible. Yeah.
I mean 37 Signals, I go back to Rails, they basically built a consulting business. You can always start a consulting business and then do a product in your 10 hours of.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. So like, I think that's the bootstrap path, is professional services as much as you have to. Work on your side thing. Hopefully over time you can flip ratios and maybe eventually throw away consulting, but maybe you can start hiring people. But it's like, it's a pretty lonely activity. I've tried it a bunch of times as a product company. And, the thing that I think the thing I learned from that era, this is like before Astronomer, is that it's so easy to give up on an idea when you're working on it bootstrap by yourself. It's just like super easy. Like watching a movie is giving up on your startup because you're taking that time that you would normally give a start to your product to watching a movie, and it's kind of, it's like that simple,
And you're under pressure all the time. If you don't go and book sales, you cannot pay yourself a salary, or you have to go do side consulting or whatever. Ultimately, it sounds like the only thing stopping people is like confidence in themselves. And that's tricky because like it's different when someone has like decade plus career experience and someone's just getting started. Like me personally, for example, I have felt that, okay, if someone gave me $1 million today, like would I be able to put it into productive use and actually bring back like multiples of that? Have I done a lot of the work that needs to be done by the people I'm gonna go hire tomorrow?
You have to have belief that there's a great business behind it. I think like 9 out of 10 startups don't really return money, so it's not like you have to be perfectly right. You have to be, 1 in 10, like 10% chance at least of being successful. I mean, ideally you want to have like a lot more confidence than that, but the reality is that's what winning is batting like, 1 out of 10 is a big win. So yeah, I just think like, investors are looking for ambitious, bold people that have clear, simple ideas. And if you can get there, you should try to get there. Why not try to get there from the start instead of floundering? Like the other thing that like time kills your reputation. Like if you've been working on Algora for 5 years and then you're trying to raise money, they're going to be like, what took you 5 years to get to the point where you're looking for your first money, right?
And just to wrap up this topic, as a bootstrap founder so far who is having a hard time finding holes in what you're saying, I'm gonna take my cognitive dissonance and later worry about it on my own. But for someone who would like to go raise a seed round, go raise a few million, build a team of 5 people with an 18-month runway and just like get running, what do they need to bring to the table when they talk to a VC?
A lead investor. By the way, I mean, it's really just that. You just get a lead investor and everything else falls into place. So how do you get a lead investor? You have to have an interesting product idea, a good team, maybe some evidence of traction that people want the product. and a good market, like a nice fat opportunity. The thing is, like, you can go to these VCs and they may have ideas for you. I think that like people think that ideas have to come from the founder's head, and it's not necessarily true. If you're going to open a pizza shop, like that wasn't your idea, like there's a lot of pizza shops, like you're going to if you're going to open a pizza shop, you're going to go and copy the shit out of your favorite 6 or 10 pizza shops, different aspects of it, Yeah. So totally copying. And, I think it's like, a lot of times these VCs may actually have a pet idea. So I'm a big fan of, like, if you want to eventually raise venture capital, go talk to VC. It's okay to talk to them when you have no idea. They love those conversations. They love just meeting interesting founders. They could plug you into an opportunity, that instead of spending 2 years, failing to come up with a good idea, they can pop you into a new company they founded or that they just funded, and get you your first year or two of startup experience that helps you get ready for your own startup eventually. So I just think, like, basically you have to decide, bootstrap is one path, venture is another, and like the games are pretty different. Even though obviously these same products can compete in the marketplace, it's like two different sports,
There must be a middle way. I think that's what we hope to.
I think the middle is death. That's what I'm saying.
The middle is death. Okay.
Yes,
the middle is death.
Yeah, I think so, because, like, think about the middle. I always talk about rocket ships versus airplanes. Like, I think a bootstrap company is an airplane. On average, what degree of elevation is an airplane flying at? Even when it's climbing as fast as it can, it's like 5%. Like it's almost flat and level. Rocket ships are aiming in like 90%. Maybe it goes down to 85%. That's rocket ship is venture, bootstrap is airplanes. And, like, tell me something. I guess rockets are like maybe going at 45 degrees, but like like no one's flying at 45 degrees. Like I know that's a weird analogy, but I just think, like, it's hard. Like a services company that's trying to raise venture capital is a great example of someone trying to play the middle. It's like, no, you're not. You can't be a 10x or a 20x or a 100x return for me. And,
makes sense.
Makes
sense.
Yeah, pick a path.
Pick a path.
Okay, pick a path.
But middle is the Death Valley. Okay, that makes sense. And another Death Valley can be, mispricing and mispackaging your product, And so, as far as mistakes go to avoid, and specifically founders who maybe are building developer tools or infra companies selling to other developers. You've found a lot of companies, you have invested in companies and advised others. So, like, what are some mistakes you see people making?
I don't think pricing and packaging is, like, I would say that if you find yourself feeling that that's your problem, I would say your problem is you weren't talking to people. You were trying to, like, do it all PLG. You were trying to, like, just do it all, Wizard of Oz, behind a screen. You need to go, if you're a founder, like, you got to go it's hand-to-hand combat to get your first 10 customers. It's hand-to-hand combat to even get your first 100, like they're not coming willingly. And so if you're just trying to, like, post a product on the internet, and again, this was a mistake I made when I was trying to do bootstrappy startups, is I would just, like, build something, put it on the internet, something, like it just, I wasn't talking to users. I wasn't out there convincing myself that I had users. It was just me making myself feel like I wanted to get my idea out into the world, but it's not the way to go. You have to, if you talk to people, then pricing and packaging becomes, what do you want? It's pretty easy to figure that out. In the early days, you have to be super flexible, so.
Well, attach a phone, on your funnel, talk to people. So that's definitely something to.
I mean, talk to people is a great rule of life. Honestly, like, even if you're, I love it. There'll be, like, I'll see something on my calendar. I'm like, why am I being with this person? And, like, the most random good thing can happen on that call. It's almost never like a total shit call. Like, I could learn about a new product, because there's always a good outcome from a call. And I view every meeting with any person as a seed that could grow into something. And you never know. It could be 3 years from now. You're like, I know that person. I wanted to learn about what's the name of the freaking startup? Cybersecurity startup. It's real big. They were getting bought by Google and it fell apart. What's the name of them? I can't recall myself. But anyway, I've met all these like random people in Cincinnati, and like I wanted to learn about that company, and like I happen to have a guy who works there as an account executive that I had met him like 3 years ago, and I'm like, hey, dude, like let's grab coffee. I haven't talked to you in a while, and it's like if I hadn't planted that seed, I would have known nobody at that company. But so I just think like you should and especially investors, like especially even associates, like they'll take a call with you, like they're looking for they're trying to learn too. So it's very mutually beneficial to spend time with VCs.
They're smart people. Like
world. Yes, they're smart people. They're trying to learn. If you happen to have something interesting, they will bring it up to their partners.
And so you just said earlier how you really need to fight for your first 10, your first 100 customers. We've all been there. Now, selling to developers are not exactly the most receptive towards some cold outbound like an email or a DM or whatever. They rather discover your product through other means and maybe come to you. So how do we consolidate this discrepancy?
Yeah, that's why I feel like content is so important. In particular, blog posts. It could be videos. It could be media as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I basically say like you should be to market to developers is create HN worthy content. Hacker News. Yeah. You want to get on Hacker News. You get on the front page of Hacker News, you get attention. A lot of it negative. Pretty much.
You got to rip your parts.
Yeah, you're going to get 3/4 of your attention will be negative, but at least it's attention, and you'll learn a little bit about some of your flaws, I guess. But no, I think like you want to basically in your first year, try to get on HN 10 times. That's a crazy objective. We did it with Tembo though. We were on the front page of HN a bunch, and obviously Postgres helps with that because there's almost always something about Postgres on the front page of Hacker News. But
what was the recipe for accomplishing that?
Just do something interesting. Build cool shit that engineers like, and then you just post it there and you kind of pray, and you fail most of the time, but eventually something will pop. You don't ask your friends to upvote it, that's for sure. Like they cheat detection there. Just post it and let it go where it may. You can create a blog post every week. Like a competent startup founder can write a blog post a week, and just that's 52 chances. You got to get 1 in 5 then to be HN.
You need one to pop to get some momentum, and then you'll build off of that.
That's right. And I think if people have seen you before, it's easier for them to upvote you again. So there's just. So I think, that's not obviously a really hard, but it's like a hits business, like music is a hits business, TV shows.
Yeah.
And like you have to create a hit, and it's a hit blog post. It could be a little controversial, that's good. You're going to get more criticism for that, but at least you might get attentions. I just think like, put out good content. Basically it's a thought leadership exercise in the early days.
The thought leadership exercise in the early days. Yeah.
It could be anything about your business too. Like you could literally just show like, I don't know, it could be crazy. Like here's how we did our billing system, using Orb and Stripe,
build in public, show people how you do it. Yeah.
It's absolutely. Like, okay, like someone else has to build a billing system this week, and they're going to do your shit.
And there's more formats than just like blog posts or, tweeting or whatever. There's podcasting or live streaming. You yourself have hosted a podcast, and now your teammates will be continuing. You're passing the torch, hacking Postgres. Tell me real quickly about that experience. What made you decide to do it, and what kind of benefits you have seen from that?
I did it with the idea that I didn't care how many people listened to it. I did it to meet the people in the Postgres ecosystem. Like I wanted to, I was new to the ecosystem. I'm like, if I'm going to have a call with somebody, and I'm bothering them, this is a busy person with a great reputation. Like I'm going to at least give them the benefit. Like it's much easier to get the meeting if you say, hey, we'll publish this as a blog post. It's an honor to be on a podcast, And so I just felt like it was honoring their time to post it to the internet after the fact.
I second that here, case in point, the conversation we're having. As the host of the podcast, you need to put in some work before and after to make some good content that can benefit people. But just this opportunity alone, it's priceless. So thank you very much for making the time. I don't know if you noticed recently, last week, there was some buzz on Twitter with Peer AI, this company that basically copied over the open source repository of another YC company.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and I saw them say, "Oh, we don't have time for licenses or legal or something." And
Exactly.
I'm more on their side than I am on the people who are going crazy about it because I think they just, I mean, it sucks to learn about open source licenses, right? It's like,
And the hard way too, like, if something goes wrong.
man, I read so much, I've been studying open source licenses for so many years, and it's still hard to decide what to do. And yeah, it's easy to make a mistake. So yeah, I think they definitely made a mistake, but I forgive them on behalf of my, like my corner of the open source world. I mean, like they caught it, they fixed it. Obviously, they said, they're just young kids, most likely that made a mistake, and I think you got to give them a second chance.
I would say the same, and give our props for the distribution muscle that they flex with all this, because they went super viral. Wishing them happy growth and to make a lot of money and be successful. Why not?
Yeah, and I saw someone like, oh, well, they just made their repo private or something. It's like, that's okay. You're allowed to have private repos with Apache license code in it, so whatever.
Much as like you're allowed to monetize an open source project and, be able to tweet while you maintain it if you're a false maintainer. Like that happens too.
Here's a fun fact though, is like sometimes companies have patents on top of open source licenses. Like the patents are kind of like invisible. And that's like a kind of a gotcha thing. I'd never seen that, but we recently kind of saw that. I saw an instance of that, which is not exciting.
Okay.
It's like, why is a company open sourcing software that they have also got a patent on?
Yeah, how does that work?
That they want to enforce? I don't know. It's weird.
At the ecosystem level, at the market level, especially with technologies like Postgres, like we've seen a bunch of foundations come up to herald, to shepherd these open source technologies, and build a consortium of companies commercializing them that can bundle up together. So could we see something like this in Postgres?
Yeah. So like CNCF is, to me, a really important reason why Kubernetes has done as well as it has. And obviously, you can argue if you want to on Twitter whether Kubernetes is good or bad. I think it's great. I think it should be invisible to most people, though. Like it's more of a tool for, for SaaS providers and big companies than it is for small companies, So, but anyway, yeah. So I think CNCF was really important for that. And like Postgres doesn't have the equivalent of a CNCF. So yeah, we've been talking to, it's been on my list for a year of let's build a ecosystem foundation in Postgres. We've been talking to a lot of the companies, and I hope we get it done by the end of the year. I've asked my team to get it done, but we're also trying to make sure we do it the right way and have the right support. But yeah, the idea here would be it's not so much about money. It's really like, I don't love it when open source projects are controlled by an individual or a company's GitHub account. Like I love when it says github.com/Apache/whatever, like now I know this is a project that will be around forever. Well, not, as long as it has ongoing. I mean, obviously there are projects that die that are inside of Apache Foundation, but at least I know that the license won't change anytime soon. So I just think that that's an awesome opportunity. And so I'd love to see a bunch of Postgres ecosystem projects fall under a foundation that guarantees that their license is forever open. And, if you're going to build a new product or a new project in Postgres, you could do it inside the foundation, and it should get traction faster, in my opinion, than if it was just under your own personal GitHub account.
I wish you the best with this effort. Definitely hard to coordinate all these organizations, all these people, but it's doable. Someone like you can do it.
Yeah, we don't need them all. It could start small, and we could grow from there. We just need a few. I just want to have a few beyond just us. We don't want to be the only company. We need a small consortium and a small group of projects.
Exactly. So now coming full circle to Tembo today, what's on your plate? What's coming up? Where is your attention going?
Yeah, I mean, we have amazing competitors in the world of Postgres. There's great companies like Supabase and Neon, and Crunchy and EDB. Like these are like dedicated Postgres companies, in addition to the cloud companies, in addition to all the great Postgres consulting companies. So it's a very tough competitive environment. And so, we're just going to continue to build, we had to build, I'd like to say in the first year or two, we had to build like the foundation of a managed service that's flexible and we've gotten that built. But now what we need to do, it's like we built the cake, but now you need to put some icing on it, something that's not just dry cake. uh, something magical. And so we're working right now to basically prioritize all the great ideas we've had over this time and do some stuff that's more exciting than functional. So we're doing a lot of stuff in AI right now. Like I just basically believe like it would be cool if Postgres kind of had a built-in LLM, well, on Tembo it does, and that stuff is been empowered a lot by the community. There's a lot of community projects like PG Vector and so on that help to make it easy to build things like that. But we just want to basically for all the use cases that you might use Postgres, we want to just give you a guide that just says, oh my God, this is really cool to do it here on Tembo. That's the idea, is that it's more streamlined, easier to defend, easier to sell internally. And it's a lot, but we're going to pick a few to start with and then, continue down the list. We've got like 12 stacks that we've created so far. These are like use cases in a box for Postgres.
Use case in a box.
But it's still like, like I said, these are like rough sketches of what they will be someday. They're not very finished,
It feels like the foundation is definitely there. Some quick numbers on the team. What's the size today?
Yeah, we're just a little over 20 people. We've raised around $20 million. Still have a good part of that left in the tank. We have 24 months of runway, which is great. Yeah, so we're going to be around for quite some time, and it's just a matter of like I said, like we get a ton of signups, a lot of students, a lot of hobbyists sign up for Tembo, and we're happy to have them. And but ultimately, like you have to build revenue, so that's the reason we're building like an outbound sales team to go out and try to capture. If you're going to go capture revenue from RDS, you're going to have to go take it. It's not going to come easy. So there's a lot of hobbyists in the world. A lot of new developers at all times. So it's great to see that. But like I said, build a business, you got to find revenue.
And for when the big enterprise comes and the teams of engineers have already used it, maybe they have some more needs, they want to get a good deal. Like any advice for actually handling these enterprise sales?
Yeah, I would say just prepare to lose. Like you're gonna lose your first 10 or 20 of them, and they're going to be painful because you feel like, you're often going to have someone in the company who wants to buy you, but it could be like the timing passed, like there's one, like we were talking to a publicly traded company the other day, and like there was like 1 month, 3 months ago that they could have possibly used Tembo, but then they chose a different path and now it's dead, so you got to move quick and get lucky a little bit. But yeah, I'd say so.
Has it happened to you that you say you wanted to test different price points and maybe you lost the deal because you went too high? Or maybe something else
I never do that. I was raised, there's a sales methodology called Sandler sales methodology. And one of the ideas in there is you discover what their budget is, and like they might say, well, we don't really have a budget. And then you say, well, if I told you the price is $1 million, you could do that. And they were like, no, I could never do $1 million. I said, so that's not in your budget. How about 500K? If I said 500,000, so you could play this game. We could play this game all day long, but eventually you're going to say, I remember we early on, we had a big gaming company, an Astronomer, and I found out that they could put up to 15K on a credit card, and avoid procurement. So I said, okay, great. Let's just do something for 10, like I could have said, do something for 15. No, let's do something for 10, 6-month deal. And we did that deal. I told my team, treat this company as if they just gave us $1 million, and they did. And then we expanded it to a 60K deal 6 months later, so yeah, just talk to them, find out how they can buy you, and just give them the advice they need. That's my advice.
Thank you. And this question came to mind because earlier you mentioned Maxim, and I had this kind of thing happen with Maxim, where actually being not very experienced with how to handle this, I wanted to test these different points, and I made a mistake, and things went downhill from there. But more recently I did the thing you just described, where you learn more about the budget, so where you can close today without procurement, like having to sign off or whatnot, and then later make an annual that is with a higher LTV. So
and that's the thing that having venture money, again, different than bootstrap. You're looking like, God damn it, you need cash, right? Whereas if it's venture capital, like it doesn't matter. Like honestly, I often say like it's better to land small because there's eventually going to be this net dollar retention metric. I don't know if you're familiar with net dollar retention, but it basically says like how much of year one revenue did you get in year two? And so if you book someone for 10K a year, then you expand them to 100K, you just set yourself up to have like a 1,000% net dollar retention. At least for that one customer, it's going to average out with a bunch of customers, but like the best SaaS companies retain, they might have like a 150%, like their existing customers grow by 50% year over year. And you can pull that off if you land small, much easier than if you land big,
Any more tactical advice on sales you might have, or things you repeat to yourself and to your team when you are in the process? Or
I would just say like, be prepared. If you basically, it's true in sales, like you have to, if you act, it's the same thing with raising money. Like you don't need their sale. You don't need their money. You don't need them as a customer. Act as if you don't need them. The meeting goes better when it's a lot about confidence. Think about like, I don't know. I always talk about dating, even though I haven't dated in, 30 years or whatever, but I'm happily married for a long, long time. But, like if you act like you really, really want something, you don't get it a lot of times. So I think same thing with sales. Like, it's okay. There's this concept called like negative reverse selling. Like if someone says, I'm not sure if I need you, you could say, I'm not sure if you guys need us either. We probably should just kill this call, right? And like they might say, yeah, we probably should. Boom. Okay, great. I saved time. Or they say, well, I don't know. So you can actually, there's a concept of going more negative than them.
Yeah.
If they show you a little negativity, you just go even more negative, and that's either going to end the call or get them to suddenly be they're selling you why they need you, so which is a good way to be. So just be chill, and just accept the fact. I just think like if you don't treat a sales opportunity as if it's a must have, and just be, just give them great terms and just, get your customers. You need your first 10 customers. The amount of money you get from them has nothing to do with the future of the company. Those first 10 customers, you can always raise their price later, or you could just give them a great price forever too,
All great points. Very tactical, very applicable. This is solid. Didn't expect we would go this far into enterprise sales, but I'm glad we did. Just to land this plane, are there any other things that you would like to leave people with? Remember, this is mostly commercial open source founders who get to learn about these episodes and get to hear. So all these things you're saying benefits me to hear, others too.
Well, I guess the final bit of advice would be like a lot of times people say, well, how am I supposed to go talk to investors when I don't know anybody? And I say, just go get to know tech founders, right? Like if you just meet the founders, you say, who's your best investor? They'll tell you. Could you introduce me to them? Sure. And like, it's so much better to, again, you really don't want to get a meeting with an investor that's not a referral, but tech founders will refer a young, up and coming potential founder to their best investors. And that's a really good intro to get. So
absolutely.
Just ask for interest. Like, you could say I don't think you've asked me, hey, Rye, would you introduce me to one of your investors? But you could, and I probably would say yes, but that's a confidence thing, right? No, it's also a path choosing thing. Like, but I still say like, even if you're going to bootstrap, it doesn't hurt to talk to VCs. Why, like just talk to them. Why not talk to them? Tell them I'm not taking venture, like that's being hard to get, right?
Yeah, have had a single conversation.
Yeah, and just say I'm actually bootstrapping. I don't know why Rye wanted me to talk to you. Yeah, we're good.
You think you're super smart and have something to add.
Yeah, just like
And some of these guys you would probably need to pay for their time to like give you their insights and thoughts on your idea, right?
Yeah, they can give you insights, and the reality is like it might be that they think. I mean, a lot of times you hear VCs say, "Oh, I don't think this is really a venture backable startup," and that's like good to hear if that's what you were thinking anyway. So let's say you want to go the bootstrap path, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, it makes sense for you to go bootstrap." Like, okay, cool, it's good to hear that, because that's what I was thinking, So it's like a win-win no matter what. If you say to them, "I'm thinking this way," and they agree with you, that's good. If they disagree with you and say, "Oh no, I think you could raise VC," tell me, how would I raise VC? What would I do? It's very confident to act like you don't know something too. It's I don't know is very powerful. You don't have to have all the answers. You just like be a real person and have a real conversation with them. So,
for sure.
That's my advice. Like talk to VCs. It's fun.
And other founders and ask them to introduce you to VCs. And again, just to sort of like to close on a banger that sound snippet from you that I really liked, which is if a founder comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm in the angel phase," then what's really going on is
like they
afraid.
don't believe that they. Well, I don't really hear angel round much at all anymore.
True.
I hear pre-seed being thrown around. I mean, maybe some people still talk about angel rounds, but yeah, angel rounds meant like, oh, I'm going to try to raise 100K, like from friends and family. And that's like, there's pre-seed investment companies now. There's accelerators. There are people who professionally will, with 2 meetings, give you that 100 grand if you say the right stuff. Yeah. Angels to me are like add-ons to, when we at Tembo, I got a $6.5 million round committed. And there are angels in our round. There are individuals who I care about, gave them an allocation, but it wasn't an angel round. There, I think angels can be a part of any round. There were angels that joined our Series A, but they don't deserve their own round. Go raise more money.
A lot of food for thought here, and maybe I reach out in a few weeks and say, "Hey, right, can you connect me with this fella, that fella?"
Yeah, I'll say no. I'll say, show me your deck. Well, it sucks. I'm like, of course it does. Send it anyway.
Oh, deal. I want to hear all the burn from all the feedback. Yeah. Time will come for that. Yeah. So thank you so much for that offer. I'll probably take you up on it one day. And thank you so much for your time. I'll let you know once everything gets published. This was really good. Thank you so much for making the time.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome. Talking again soon.